So, good evening, everybody. My name is Earle Plain. I'm an Air Quality Meteorologist with the Ministry of Environment and Climate Change Strategy with the Environmental Protection Division. And thanks to Janelle for inviting me here tonight. I've been involved with looking at air quality here in Comox Valley for, I guess, since 2008, when I first moved here to the island. I was engaged with EHA and with UVic to do some early studies there. I'll talk a little bit about that to start with. So what I want to talk about here in the next 20 minutes or so is where we measure air quality in Comox Valley, what we measure, and then I'll talk a little bit about some of the studies that we've been involved with for the last 4 or 5 years, and exactly what the data is telling us. So this slide here is just to give you an idea of some of the past monitoring that's taken place. Some of you may have seen this slide, some of you have not. It's what we call mobile monitoring. So what we do is we take an instrument, we put it in the back of a vehicle, and pair that up with a GPS, and drive around the community and take readings and pair that up in space and time. Then you can map the concentrations by location according to GPS when you come back to the office. So this was a study that was done back in 2008 and 2009 through UVic, EHA. We supported that program as well. And I guess the impetus for this particular study was around, there's a couple of different reasons why we did it. One of them was there was a lot of complaints about wood smoke impacts in different neighborhoods throughout the community, and we were contemplating coming in and placing an air quality monitor in the community. And we wanted to see how widespread the wood smoke issue was in the community before we decided how we're going to put a monitor. So if you look at the maps, hopefully you can see those back there, but generally speaking, the darker the dots, the higher the concentration, the lighter the dots, the lower the concentration. And these plots from left to right, we've got one from December 2008, January 2009, February, and March. We just selected one per month to give you an idea of the sort of the cross-section there. But one thing to take away from this is the downtown core, sort of the end of Comox Harbor there, I guess the valley bottom itself, generally speaking across all 4 months, you'll see elevated concentrations of fine particulate matter. But we also see that it's not just in the valley bottom. It seems to, from month to month we see impacts in the Comox residential area. We saw some impacts up in CBRD to the north, the rest of Courtenay, and on some, on some nights, and also all the way up into Cumberland and even into Royston. So it was a good starting point for us. We basically had a look at this and went, wow, it's a lot more widespread an issue than we thought it was initially. So where would be a good place to place our monitor? Well, we think that in looking at those plots, the downtown area, sort of just outside the downtown area, but in the valley bottom would be a great place to put our analyzer and have a look and see if what we got in those snapshots is real or not. And so we placed our monitoring site at the Courtenay Elementary School in the valley bottom. And that's our monitoring station. It's at the back of the playing field. And the site itself is residential commercial mix. And there are, as you can see in the picture on the top left there's residences on the alley right behind the station, as well as across the street on 16th Avenue, which we were a little bit concerned about when we first put it in there. I thought we might have some influence from those analyzers, but what we did is we put meteorology in this site as well, so we could look and see what the influence was of anything that was really nearby. So this is what we measured at the site: fine particulate matter, ground level ozone, nitrogen dioxide, and meteorology. And this is what it looks like inside the trailer. So these are the instruments that are in there. They're in the rack on the right. And one on the bottom here is our BAM 1020. That's what we use to measure fine particulate matter continuously. And so the information itself is stored on a central computer in the station, and it's pulled on an hourly basis by our Victoria staff, and that feed is fed out to a public-facing website. This is what you see on our bcairquality.ca website. For anybody that wants to go in there and have a look and see what air quality is like in your community, people can do this. So this is what you would see if you went to that site and scroll down on the right. There's an interactive map you can click on, and it brings up all the sites in British Columbia where we monitor for air quality. And then you can select a parameter across the top. In this case, I selected PM2.5, and I clicked on Courtenay on the Vancouver Island site there, and you get the ambient air quality data for that hour. And then if you're interested in the last 30 days or even the last few hours, you can click on this little chart or graph button just above the readings. And this is what you get in the last 30 days of PM2.5 information on the top. And you can actually highlight any spots you might be interested in looking at more closely, and it'll pop up in this graph in the bottom. So it's a good little tool for people to look at what's going on in their community. So I guess now we want to, what is the data telling us? So of the 3 air quality parameters that we measure in Comox Valley, fine particulate matter is the parameter of concern. It's the only parameter where we have seen exceedances of the Canadian and provincial air quality objectives. Nitrogen dioxide and ground level ozone are at levels that are well below those objective levels, so that's a good thing. In terms of where we sit in the province in Courtenay, this is a summary from 2016, and this is pretty typical of what we've seen actually right back when we started doing our monitoring here in Courtenay. So we've been either in the top 10, in the top 5 or the top 10 in the province. And this is the last year that we had data that's verified, the end of 2016. And Courtenay sits just below Kamloops, Prince George, and Courtenay. And it's higher than places like Smithers, Port Alberta, all the way down the list there. So just kind of give you an idea where we sit in the province. And these numbers are reflected even further in things that we call air zone reports. And these reports are something that we put out every year as part of our commitment to a national air quality management system that's been in place across Canada since 2013. So every year, we look at the last 3 years of data, and we compare the information from ground level ozone, nitrogen dioxide, and fine particulates against standards across Canada. And come up with these color-coded charts to let us know how communities are doing. And right now, Courtenay and Port Alberta are in what we call the red zone. So they're in non-compliance, non-compliance with the Canadian ambient air quality standard. Next, please. And this is the same information, just in a chart. And this is easier to see where we sit in the Georgia Strait air zone. You can go back to a So in response to this kind of information, knowing where we sit in Courtenay in terms of the rest of the province, in fact, we're in non-compliance, the ministry, as part of our response, is we want to make things better in those communities. So we get together with local governments, with advocacy groups, with other researchers, other partners, and we try to do what we need to identify the sources that need to be managed. So over the last 4 or 5 years, there's been a number of those studies that have taken place. And I'm just going to talk briefly about each of those. So this here is a study that was done back in January of 2017. It's just basically a redo of some of the work that was done back in 2008 and 2009. The difference here is that the researcher used a new instrument. It's called a metherometer. And it's extremely well tuned to look just at wood smoke sources. So it eliminates any biases you're going to get from other sources like road dust and things like that that may influence some of the older readings that we have. But what we see here, these are 2 separate routes. So he had 2 weeks of driving time. And what he did is he drove one route one night, and he drove the other route the next night, back and forth, the alternating routes. And what you see here is that the Courtenay station on the right-hand chart there, it's at the bottom left. It looks about the same as it did in 2008, 2009. There's still some hot spots in the valley bottom, very, very similar to what we're seeing in 2008, 2009. But those same things show up in the Comox residential area and again to the north in CRD. If you look at the other route here on the left-hand side, you see that the Courtenay station is situated very well in that it represents a very, very large area. It represents basically what's going on in the entire valley bottom. So this is an aggregated plot, so this is over a 7-day period. It also represents what's going on in Cumberland very well. So an interesting study. This was another one that was done by the BC Centre for Disease Control back in 2017. And what they did is they developed computer algorithms that looked at different characteristics of wood smoke in communities across all of British Columbia. And they came up with, I think it was a number, about 32 different factors they looked at to identify how smoky a community was. And then they ran all of the ambient air quality information they had across the province for the last 3 years. And they came up with basically, don't even look at the colors. The most important thing to recognize is that Courtenay sits about second place across the province. And what that means is it's the second most wood smoke impacted community in the province. So it's just another piece of information we can take forward when we look at the ambient data we have, when we look at those wood smoke studies we have like this. It just kind of adds to the weight of evidence for us in terms of which sources we might want to target. And this is a report that I completed last fall, so I had a chance to actually go back and look at 5 years of data. When you've got 5 years of continuous information, that's a really rich data set to look at. You can tease out all kinds of different things. And that's, if you really want to geek out, you can look at that link there, go click away, dig in a little bit, have fun. So what I did is I examined trends and patterns and all of the parameters that we measured at that site. Next, please. So this is, Charmaine did a really good job of describing what PM 2.5 is. This is what we measured at the PM 2.5 site. And that's what I'm going to focus on, by the way, because ground level ozone, nitrogen dioxide were at levels that were not concerned. So I'm going to focus on PM 2.5. And what we see here, each of those little purple, or maybe the blue back there, diamond shapes, that's a daily concentration, daily average concentration of fine particulate matter, measured at the Comox, the Courtenay Elementary School site. The dates are on the bottom from May 2011 right up to the end of 2017. Concentrations on the left. The red, that's all the red line is our air quality objective. And what you see are these patterns of kind of dips and highs, so peaks and dips. And the dips correspond to our warm months, so basically from around March 15th, April kind of period through till about September 15th, October 15th, kind of in there. And the peaks correspond to our cold months. So what's going on there? I'm sure probably most of you know what's going on there. It's a combination of things. So meteorology plays a really big part in air quality. I don't have a lot of time tonight to talk about it, but it's actually a crucial piece in determining the susceptibility of a community in terms of how it's going to fare in terms of air quality. So if you've got poor dispersion, you're in a valley bottom, it takes less emissions in that area to create an air quality problem than it does if you're on a wide open plain of prairies with lots of wind. So what's happening here is during the winter months, we get a lower sun angle, we got a shorter daylight period, less surface heating, so maybe 4 or 5 hours a day of actual sunshine when you get into December and January. And you just don't get that surface heating that we need to start building up. So, to create that instability to disperse pollutants in the valley bottom. At the same time, we see a real change in the emissions profile. So through the summer months, if you think about what people emit during the summer, we're looking at mobile sources, so there's automobiles, there are marine sources, there's commercial sources, so restaurants, all of that, different types of things. And there's residential sources, lawnmowers, barbecues, all that different stuff, all creates these fine particles. But when we get to the winter months, things change. We add something pretty big there. The big thing is people idle their cars a lot longer. They drive a lot more than they probably did in the summertime. So if you're a biker in the summertime, you might drive your vehicle a few times when it's snowing. You might ride your vehicle a few times when it's raining. That's me. I'm a fair weather rider. The other thing is in the fall, there's a lot of forestry burning, so hazard abatement burning, which is mandated by the industry force. There's land clearing burning that goes on. And that's it can be agriculture related, it can be development related, and then there's residential backyard burning that goes on. And then as we get further into the cooler months, so into November, it could even start earlier depending on the year. For those of you that live here, some people too. It could start as early as, say, November, people start using their wood stoves. And we found that that's a really big source. So it's a combination of changing meteorology and changing the emissions profile that causes these peaks. This is another piece of the puzzle. So it's something that we looked at back in early 2017. We had a consultant come in and do some work on what we call an emissions inventory. And the base year was for 2015. And we used this to help us target the sources of whatever pollutant we're interested in. And when the consultant was done doing his inventory and mapping it all out, this is what we came up with. And lo and behold, the two largest sources that pop up are the ones that we intuitively thought were going to be there. Open burning and space heating together make up about 81% of the PM2.5 emissions in the valley. And mobile sources, so automobiles and marine sources, it's quite a large piece as well. But just targeting those two big pieces of the pie alone, in some fashion, we could get a really big bang for our buck. Next. I just wanted to show a couple of, I can't obviously go through all of the highlights of my report, it's pretty big, but there's a couple of analyses here that I just want to highlight. This one here is, it's a matter of taking hourly PM2.5 readings and looking at them through the period that we're interested in, which is the winter, because the winter is when we have our peak PM2.5. We want to see what it actually looks like during the day. So we call this a diurnal plot. So from midnight, 0 hours, through 2300 hours, which is 11 o'clock at night. And during the day, typically what we see is a kind of a cleansing effect from those onshore flows during the winter time. And a little bit of surface heating, things clear out. And then people are basically, they're heading back home from work. The sun goes down, dispersion becomes really poor in the evening, and people start to fire out their wood stoves. And this is what we see is that peak in the evening right through to about 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock at night, people go to sleep. We see things decline all the way down to basically 5, 6 o'clock in the morning. So we see that spike with some fresh emissions in the morning again, and it repeats itself. So just what we call a wood stove signature. I guess this is the last kind of complicated chart I'll show you, I think. This is an analysis that we call pollution rows. And what we've done here is we've taken all of the wintertime data, so from 2013 to 2016, so 4 years or 4 years of data from the winter months alone. And it's the hourly PM2.5 numbers, and we paired them up with hourly wind direction information. So what we can essentially do is say, okay, when we've got high concentrations, the red ones, what direction is the wind coming from at the monitor? And we can also look at it, you can look at it by season, you can look at it by day, by night. In this case, we looked at it for the winter months, daytime and nighttime. And what's interesting here is, I didn't show you plots on the meteorology, just a bit of lack of time, but typically what we see in the Comox Valley here is a real push from the ocean during the day, from the southeast. And it comes right up the harbor here, comes onshore, and it brings in kind of a cleaner area. You see lighter colors from that quadrant. At the nighttime, the opposite occurs. We get what are called drainage flows of land. I guess it's a land breeze, so you've got sea breeze on land breeze. But it's interesting at the monitoring site. If you remember, we looked at that picture of where the monitoring site sat. There's an alley in behind it. Those houses were to the east. They're right behind. Basically, there's not much influence from those houses that are right behind. So that was really interesting to me. What we do see at nighttime are high concentrations coming across the playing field and from the west and the northwest. Actually, so what I'm actually seeing are what we call drainage flows. So when the air gets cold, it starts to respond almost like water. It gets cold, it densifies, and it drops to the ground and starts to flow like water downhill. and it carries with it whatever it comes through. So it comes through the plume of smoke, it grabs that smoke and carries it down to the next neighborhood, to the next neighborhood, to the next neighborhood, and eventually cools down the valley bottom where it's going to build up. And that's what we're seeing here this site. Next. And this is a good example of that right here. I don't know how clear that is back there. This is a shot from up on Woods Avenue, and you can see here where wood smoke from residential wood heating. This is just in the early evening, the sun has gone down, dispersions pour, the smoke goes up, cools, and comes right back down to the ground. Next house, same thing, same thing, same thing. And the smoke basically starts to roll downhill and ends up cooling down the valley bottom. So just it's what we're seeing in our monitoring site as well. What I wanted to mention here is that when we're targeting sources, source location and timing really matters. So just to say, okay, open burning is a great big piece of the pie, it's huge, we should target that. Target all forestry burn, shut it all down. I think we need to look more closely at what the sources are within that source category and what the sources are in all the other categories. It's the things that are very close to people that are the most important from an air quality perspective. So smoke from backyard burning, land clearing, wood stoves is released right where people live, right where people work, right where people play, kids. So pollutants from these sources, they're more likely to be inhaled. We call that, I guess the other thing is, larger sources like forestry burns, they're regulated. They're only allowed to burn under good ventilation conditions. These types of sources, like backyard burning, and wood stoves, they're not regulated, so they can happen at any time. And in a lot of cases, most cases, wood stove use is going to happen at night. People are cold, they don't want to work for it. So in summary, we see generally low concentrations or good air quality during the warm months and degraded air quality in the cold months. And that's due to a change in the emissions profile and a change in meteorology. We've seen exceedances in the Comox Valley since monitoring has begun, consistently in the top 10 in terms of the worst air quality in the province for PM2.5. And we've got a really rich data set here now. We're able to look at impact patterns at different timescales, and it really points to wood stoves and open burning as the main PM2.5 sources that need to be managed. So, yeah, we've done a lot of studies here in the last 4 years. I just want to point that out. We've been very actively studying this issue. And I think we're at the point now where at some point you've got to go, okay, man, enough study. We've done a lot of study that all points to the same thing. You can study something to death. And I think we're at the point now where the weight of evidence points to wood smoke as being the source that needs to be managed. If we can manage those 2 big pieces of pie, that emissions inventory, as I said earlier, we're going to get a big bang for our buck. As Charmaine said, it's not a matter of eliminating those sources within those categories, it's a matter of bringing those numbers down. I think that's it. I did have a slide on management, but I think we'll leave that and answer questions as well. I don't want to be a talking head here for too long.